Thank you, and thanks for highlighting something that maybe we can agree on. I think we're talking about the wrong thing. We're talking about how to fix a system, frankly, it seems like everyone at the table says doesn't work, which is the income tax, which is why I've got a constitutional amendment proposed to repeal the 16th Amendment, which established this broken system of taxation. It doesn't work well. And so thank you for highlighting many of the ways that it doesn't work. Jeff Bezos isn't going to sell his Amazon shares anytime soon. And some people think that's unfair. You should pay as if you had sold them. So you won't have to necessarily give up control of the company as long as we can confiscate some of the wealth. That's the concept behind the wealth tax, right? But the reality is, if we tax differently, instead of paying almost nothing on it, instead of being able to borrow, frankly, at lower rates than the federal government, because there's even lower risk that he's going to default on, say, 50% of the value of his Amazon shares than the federal government defaulting on a 10-year Treasury note in the current environment, he could probably borrow more cheaply than the United States government right now. And that's rational. What's not rational is to continue to fight and bicker and divide our country over class warfare schemes when we know that the current system of income tax really doesn't work well. It does leave out people like Jeff Bezos. But if we had a fair tax, a system that instead of taxing income, taxed consumption, but allowed for basic needs to be excluded from taxation, things that the lowest income people pay disproportionately high percentage of their income in, it would work more fairly and it would be incredibly more progressive. I mean, I'm speculating here because I don't really know, but I'm thinking Jeff Bezos probably pays more for lawn care than the median household income. Right? So you could tax all sorts of consumption and tax differently, and it could be more fair, more equitable, and it would, frankly, be more efficient. You know, my main objection isn't even relevant to the topic at hand. My main objection is privacy. You know, did you make some money? Did you give someone a gift? You know, did you buy or sell something? Did you make or lose money? It's really not the government's business to know that. It's just an incredible invasion of privacy. And that's what we're seeing is it's really a tool of power. It's a tool of coercion, a way to impose the will of the government on the population. And so for all those reasons, we should have more freedom and less government, and we should actually get to one of the root issues that also divides us, which is sound money. So I'm going to go down the table real quickly and say, you know, do deficits matter? So, Mr. Gale, do deficits matter?
Right now, they matter less than they have in the past, and
I'll take that as a
less
no.
than they have in the future.
Professor Brown?
No.
Mr. Hanley?
Very little at the moment.
Okay. Ms. Matsui?
They shouldn't constrain investments that are needed.
No? Okay.
Yes, they matter.
Okay, so I think we've had a little sample pack of modern monetary theory, which is a new phrase for an old idea that you can debase the currency, that deficits don't matter. You know, we have our own currency, so we could just print more money. Why would we even need to tax? Since deficits don't matter, why do we need to collect taxes? Is it just because we hate rich people? Anyone? So if deficits don't matter, why tax?
We're not collecting taxes from really rich people.
From anybody?
We are collecting taxes from middle class and low income Americans.
So we shouldn't tax anybody and we could just spend?
We should tax rich Americans more so that they pay their fair share to compensate for their use of the court system and any number of other
Okay, so fundamentally, really just to punish the rich. The really, really rich is the only reason we should tax, right? And then we could redistribute. But why redistribute when you can even just print the money? So this is a fallacious argument. We're seeing the results of it. And people say, well, we're seeing it around the world. Well, we're seeing it around the world because other countries have debased their currency more aggressively than the United States of America. The European Union, European Central Bank, they've printed more money as a percentage of their GDP than we have. Bank of Japan, Swiss National Bank, they've all debased their currencies. And so it's growing the wealth gap. Why? Well, to your point, some of you have made the point, wealthy people own more equity. But here who would get crushed by some of these horrible ideas? Unrealized gains? Are you kidding me? What would happen to Mr. Himes' idea? I had a small business. We were not cash rich as a business, but if I had to sell my company to pay the estate tax, my family would have nothing because it would be sold. We'd pay taxes, and there'd be a little bit left over. Mr. Arrington highlighted what would happen in farms, but the reality is it makes it impossible to leave an inheritance. So the death tax is a horrible way to tax, an even worse way. So we have to come up with a better, more fair way to tax. We do have to collect revenue for our government, but I hope that this forms the basis for a huge momentum to get rid of the income tax. I yield.